Officer Nancy Leedberg, and we also have Amy LeFort. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Talk to us. Nancy, you've been so kind to come up here, and Amy, this is your second time, and this is something that I'd like for us to continue doing, whether we do it once a month, twice a month, just to get folks aware of what's going on. This morning, I took a few moments just to kind of reiterate to folks who may have children who are in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th grade. This is a crucial time in your child's life where, you know what, maybe peer pressure, maybe things that they, that may attract them. As a parent, we can't just assume that our children are safe from any of the harms that society may have to dangle in front of our children. Talk to us about the importance of something like Not My Kid in this program that Nancy, you've been a part of for some time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Actually, tonight we're having a Not My Kid at the Cape Verdean Association at 575 North Montello Street. If people want to register, they can always email me at nancy@brocktonpolice.com, and that does start this evening at 6. The importance of Not My Kid is it's a prevention-based program, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the kids before they're even asked to do anything illicit. So a lot of my parents, I think, some of the things that they stumble with is, well, if I go to this program, I'm admitting my kid has a problem. And that's not the case whatsoever. This is strictly prevention. It's strictly come, get the information, know what's out there, know what the current trends are, and formulate a plan that you can use at home to keep your kids off drugs. And still, the number one thing that kids struggle with is the peer pressure. So the beautiful thing about passing out drug test kits to families is giving that child an absolute out. They can bring the test kit home, put it on the mantle. Whether they use it or not, that's their business. But the child can say, if they're ever offered, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I can't. I'm drug tested at home. Their kids see the drug test kit on the mantle. It's an absolute out.
Here's the other thing that I think a lot of parents get caught up in, and that is that only the bad kids do that. The kids who were always in trouble.
Oh, yes.
And that's not necessarily the case. And I think that's last time we had a conversation, Amy, I think that's how we kind of brought you into the conversation. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us about how you're kind of tied into this and your thoughts about maybe that perception.
That is a scary perception because it's not just, quote unquote, the bad kid. I mean, my sister was, again, like I said last time, a straight-A student.
Now, who's your sister again?
Elizabeth LeFort. She passed away in January of a drug overdose.
Sorry.
And she was a great kid, straight A's, a cheerleader. She did modeling. She had a great group of friends. She was that great girl that all the teachers loved. She was really popular in school, and this affected her. And I know other kids that were in sort of her age group and even my year that were absolutely those great kids in high school that all the teachers loved, had a great group of friends, and she started hanging out with the wrong group, and things went from there.
I would say this, and that is, last time you were here also, there was kind of a point where I thought it was best where, Nancy, you took over the conversation and kind of, kind of like, being in the big chair, where you kind of, have a chance to kind of ask the questions that maybe I may overlook, and you kind of know where things are, and you have such a close relationship with Amy that you guys can kind of talk about this, and I can kind of just kind of stay in the foreground. And if there's a question that I feel that needs to be asked in somewhere in there, I'll kind of, but this is an important, I think, time, especially this time of year. It's warm weather. Who knows what our kids are getting into? And I think it's important to get the word out and try to get as many people into these these workshops, these programs that you've been working so hard to get folks into and talk to them about.
And I think for summertime, that's always when my sister struggled the most. She would do great in the winter, and then summer would come, and it's nice out, and it's
She wasn't in school.
She wasn't in school, and that's when sort of all the bad things happen.
You can be unfocused at that time.
Right.
You don't need to be as focused.
Yeah, I don't mind. I invited Amy here for several reasons, but one of the reasons that's very important to me is that a lot of parents that aren't coming to the workshop, I don't want to say it's denial or anything like that, because it is a prevention-based program, but What would you say to parents that say, I don't need that workshop, I don't need to attend, it's not my kid?
I think I would just ask them, and what's the harm of going? I went to your last workshop. It was great. It was so informational. It's 45 minutes. That's no time whatsoever. And what do you have to lose? I mean, had we known the things that you presented at your workshop, maybe things would have turned out differently for my family. And it's not just for maybe your kid who is that great kid who actually has no desire to do drugs and, is involved with sports and a lot of after-school activities, but they may have friends that hang out at your house. And if you start noticing the things that you learned at the workshop about their friends, that may raise a red flag for you saying, okay, they have friends that are doing it, so it's close to home. And that way you can just keep more of an eye on it instead of just saying, I have a great kid, I don't need to go to this.
Absolutely. My partner last night, we were working Brockton after dark, said to one of the kids, the first time you're hanging with the wrong crowd, the second time you are the wrong crowd.
Right.
So if these kids are coming over to your house and you suspect that they're using drugs, they're maybe looking in your medicine cabinets, then you know that warning sign is there, what you can do to protect your child. Yeah. So that it doesn't infiltrate your house, that kind of thing.
And the other thing is I think maybe the folks who are maybe in their late 40s, late 30s and their 40s think that, I'll know, I could smell it on them. They have the perception of the way drugs maybe were back in the 80s. There are, certain little warning signs, but I think it's a different world nowadays where, what's in your cabinet for medication could be that thing that's, stimulating them with a high.
Yeah, and what we're worried now is, some of my parents say, well, Officer Leedberg, I smoked marijuana and I turned out okay, and yada, 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 that whole conversation. I say, well, back then the THC in marijuana was 3%. Now it's upwards over 25%.
Sure.
So it's a different drug altogether, not to mention the fact what could be put into it. But honestly, with the decriminalization of marijuana, that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother segment. I won't get on my soapbox here. But it's not even marijuana anymore because obviously we're very, very concerned with prescription pills. And the fact that prescription pills are overprescribed, the fact that prescription pills are available in medicine cabinets, they're not being locked in people's homes, so they're accessible to children. And again, it may not be your child, but your child's friends coming over the house, looking in the medicine cabinet. You have that prescription of Oxy for when you broke your leg last summer. Oh, I'm going to hang on to it just in case something happens. Well, just in case something happens, you go back to the doctor. That's why we have doctors. So there's this medicine sitting in the cabinet. You may notice if all 30 pills or 20 or 15 pills are missing. You're not probably going to notice if one or two are gone. And that's what the kids are doing. They're taking one or two at a time, taking them to friends' houses or parties, whatever the case may be. And that's how they're starting. And the kids don't realize, well, I think what the kids are thinking is that, oh, well, it's prescribed by a doctor, so it's safe. I won't get hurt. I won't become an addict. And then they'll hear stories and they'll say, well, that will never happen to me. I'll never do that. And the fact of the matter is, unless you lock up these drugs and make them inaccessible to the kids, Oxy is turning into a heroin problem.
Right.
So,
why is that?
Well, from the people that I've talked to, it's because they can't afford the Oxy, so they turn to heroin because it's a similar high, but much less expensive, cheaper than a six-pack of beer. So the problem is the prescription drugs turning into something even nastier. And obviously the worry about overdose and things like that.
What I would ask you ladies is of those who do attend this program, what do you hear afterwards? What have you heard from folks who have heard about, some of the things that they should be on top of? Do they kind of feel like maybe they took it kind of lightly? They agreed to go to it and they're like, oh, I probably already know this, but I'll go anyways, and then find out that there's a lot more involved than they think?
And that's exactly what happened to me. The first time I attended, I said, what are they going to teach me? I've been in the industry for 100 years. I know everything. I know a lot of people out there. This doesn't surprise that Nancy actually thinks that. But when I sat there, I said, oh, my God, I can't believe the current trends. I can't believe, the simple fact that a child can hide drug use from their parents for upwards of 2 years, the fact the national average is 13, that kids are experimenting. So, yeah, a lot of parents sit there and they say, wow, I thought I was savvy. I thought I knew a lot about the drugs and alcohol and the current trends, but coming to the workshop opened my eyes, and I can't believe there aren't more parents here. And now we have like a 96% rate of parents that would definitely recommend it to other parents. So when they do the survey, it's no, definitely not, probably not, maybe, probably, and yes, definitely. 96% of parents are saying yes, definitely would recommend it to another parent.
And I think a lot of them were shocked at the statistics that were presented, because it's mind-boggling seeing it up there and seeing those numbers and how scary that is.
Yeah, the numbers are a little horrifying, and that's what horrified me when I was in the workshop 3 years ago.